First, I'm going to have to apologize. Volume 9 will come later. First, we're going to do the Pokemon Black and White mini-volumes.
In short, the mini-volumes are small graphic novels. They are about 100 pages long, so it's half the content of a regular 200-page volume. The physical size actually surprised me a bit. They are slightly smaller and a little bit wider than the graphic novels. Finally, since the amount of content in these 4 volumes is about 2 actual volumes, I'm going to mostly blast through things. We're going to look at the back cover of Mini Volume 1 first. The wait is finally over.
I'm sorry this took so long, I'm sorry this took so long, I'm sorry this took so long.
Anyways, the real reason why I looked at the back cover was because of this. Who will Black choose as his next Pokemon?
Is this a serious question? Let's ignore that I already know since I'm currently reading from a script, and instead, let's play Guess the Starter Pokemon!
Going by Tepig being on the back cover and also being on the front cover directly in front of Black, I'm gonna have to say it's clearly Oshawott. Who would you choose? For whatever reason, they decided that would be a smart idea to address the reader. The question itself is incredibly stupid because I'm pretty sure their target audience has already bought and played the games. It's also the third choice that the player makes in the game. Other things on the cover include White and N, 2 characters that aren't even in this volume.
I demand my $5.99 plus HST back.
And I'm not sure if it's just my volume, but the coloring seems a bit weird. Like the flesh has a yellow tinge. It doesn't match up with the other covers. One thing you can't tell by the scans, and wouldn't notice until you're holding the volume, the checkerboard pattern in the background has texture. We open up not with a protagonist, but with the local professor, Professor Juniper. She has let the Pokemon out of their Pokeballs, puts her food on the table, and begins to walk away to answer the phone.
Anyone with animals should immediately know how stupid this is.
Naturally, all hell breaks loose, and Professor Juniper wonders if they are ready for their trainers. We cut to some time later. A delivery man appears to take a box from Professor Juniper. A shadowy figure suddenly appears asking about the package, taking the delivery man by surprise, and he fights back in self-defense. This is our introduction to our first protagonist of the story arc, Black. Black is reckless. He's hot-blooded and always looking towards his goal. He isn't worried about the consequences of his actions and deals with them as they come up. In many ways, he is more immature than many of the younger Pokédex holders that we've seen in the series. He's also sort of stupid, violating common sense and waiting out in the rain.
It's not the Wii. It's not going to be unavailable for the next 3 years if you don't get it the first day. It was going to be shipped directly to your house anyways!
In Black's own words, he has been looking forward to this day for the past 9 years of his life. He signs the waybill and gets a package. I just love how Black is holding it above his head. The only thing that would make this better is if Viz put in the Zelda sound effects for me. Black opens up the box, and I need another Zelda sound effect in for the scene. Black sneezes and drops the box. The Pokemon are let out and they once again begin to fight. This time, Tepig runs off. We cut to some time later where Professor Juniper is staring horrified. Snivy's mangled corpse is hanging out of the mailbox. Oshawott's head is smashed against a wall. The Pokédexes are cheap pieces of crap and broken. And oh my god, what the hell is wrong with Bianca? Whatever expression this is, it isn't the one you'd be using to view this, unless you're some kind of serial killer. Anyways, Bianca chooses for Sharon his Pokemon. Knowing that his friend will gut him, Sharon gladly accepts. Meanwhile, Black talks to Tepig, telling him that he wants to have him as his partner, but they are attacked by a wild Pokemon. Black tells Munna to eat his head, and Professor Juniper is rightfully concerned that a facehugger went on Black's face. And I hope you don't get sick of explanations, because in the 4 volumes, this is explained 5 times. By having Munna eat Black's dream, Black becomes hyper-aware of everything around him. Once the crisis is over with, Black takes part in his daily tradition, shouting at the top of his lungs,
"I'm going to be the very best like no one ever was!"
And then Black flies off into the horizon. Back at Professor Juniper's lab, Sharon and Bianca are having a Pokemon battle inside the house. It's pretty much to justify drawing the scene from the beginning of the game, however, since they aren't in Black's house, there is no Wii and no caption saying that it's completely unscratched.
Just to be perfectly clear, that would have been completely worth the $5.99 plus HST I paid for this.
We switch over to Black, where he is announcing his dream. In a library. He's in there to try and find Tepig's evolved form to give Tepig a nickname. Black's nicknaming scheme is to give the Pokemon a nickname based upon their evolved form. Tepig doesn't take kindly to this and runs off.
I'm really hoping that Tepig running off doesn't become a reoccurring theme.
We also get a flashback with a younger Black. Here, they don't say how young, just that was 9 years ago, but a flashback later in the series reveals that this is when they were 5 years old. He makes a notebook with his plan, and I really got to comment on how neat his writing is for a child that young. They see Cedric Juniper, Professor Juniper's father, on the TV talking about the Pokédex. Black sees this as the perfect excuse to go on a trainer's journey. He went home to the next town over, Accumula Town, and somehow convinced his parents to move to Nuvema Town.
Wait a second, he traveled from one town to another without any Pokémon.
Anyways, Black meets up with Tepig and nicknames him Tep. Back in Nuvema Town, Bianca is being stopped by her father. The final round in the first volumes just has Black face off against a hiker named Andy in a triple battle. I didn't want to mention this round, but there are two things that need to be brought up. The first is 2 speech balloons were left blank. One I think was just sort of stuffed into the next speech balloon. The other was left incomplete. The second thing that I felt like mentioning was a certain line. My dream, it never dies.
Black, are you sure you're in the right manga? Because One Piece is that way.
The cover of Volume 2 spoils the new Pokemon Black will be getting, and thankfully White is actually in this volume along with her incredibly short shorts. The back cover continues addressing the reader. Then, mysterious Team Plasma urges everyone to release their beloved Pokemon in the wild. Is this really a good idea? What would you do?
It's a completely stupid idea! Why would you address the reader with this? They know Team Plasma is evil because they have the word team in their name! It's been that way for the past 5 generations!
Plus, meet lively Pokemon Patrat, Timber, Galvantula, and many more new Pokemon in the unexplored Unova region. Copyright information lists the first printing in July of 2011, 4 months after the games were released worldwide. I'm pretty sure the main demographic are fans of the games. Unless you're someone who is just getting into the games, you most likely would have explored Unova already. The volume opens up with an advertisement for the cross transceiver. This is the introduction to the second protagonist, White. And she kicks major ass. Currently she doesn't battle, however she's an entrepreneur. She runs her own business, the BW Agency, a talent agency for Pokemon, used it for films, commercials, and I'm sure some videos on the internet.
Actually, let me double check that last one. Hello, is this the BW Talent Agency? Yep, I got this herdier from them.
Black is also on a nearby cliff, shouting off his dreams to the sea, the sun, and the sky. The assistant director tries to get Black away. The fear of the director killing him sort of motivates him. Meanwhile, White learns that she needs both a male and female Tepig, and no one told her about the male Tepig. Black is also showing off a poster that advertises the new Pokemon League.
As opposed to the old Pokemon League back in Kanto.
Okay, I don't follow sporting events. Is it common for yearly events to be advertised a year prior to the next event? Also, I really love how there is no date there, just next year. There are 365 days in a normal year. Care to narrow it down a bit? Maybe just the season, like next summer. Back at where everyone was shooting, the filming crew has been knocked unconscious. The assistant director immediately proceeds to put the ass in assistant, blaming Black. You're the only stranger here, it has to be you! Mr. Director, we better call the police.
There is no way someone can be this stupid. Herdier, Giga Impact. Don't look at me like that, the Pokédex says you can use it.
Yes, the guy you were talking to away from the scene of the crime when this happened and was with White the whole time is guilty. The culprit turns out to be a Galvantula. Black's tactics for defeating it involve punching or slapping the electric spider silk, and the impossible plan of setting it on fire. Thankfully, Black's countless hours of playing The Legend of Zelda pays off, and Galvantula is defeated. In the process, however, he has destroyed the filming equipment.
I'd probably argue that the electric surge would have destroyed the filming equipment first, and that anyone with any foresight, especially in a world where you're recording fire-breathing monsters, would have had the equipment insured. But that would get in the way of the plot.
White decides to hire Black and pays the cost of the bills. The round ends with the first appearance of N.
Although I do have to wonder, what happened to A through M? Thankfully, I do have my safety herdier here to help me sleep at night.
The next round, our protagonists witness a speech by Getis. How anyone can trust someone who looks like that in public is beyond me. That being said...
Mr. Getis, my herder and I have some questions about Pokemon Liberation. What if in Unova there is some high-profile crime syndicate like Team Rocket? And if we liberate all of our Pokemon, how will we be able to defend ourselves? Also, you called yourself Team Plasma. That's sort of bringing up images of Team Rocket for some reason.
And yes, I had this problem with the source material too. This being Pokemon, where everyone is dumb as bricks, some people actually believe his incredibly stupid speech and begin to release their Pokemon.
Where do I begin? Do I make you unhappy?
1. They are animals. Going by my experience with pets, you can tell when they are happy, scared, and most importantly when they want to be with you. In the case of Chocolate, that's usually at midnight when he is meowing in front of my bedroom door. 2. By releasing domesticated animals into the wild, you're doing more harm than good. They most likely won't be able to adapt to the wild situations. Wild Pokemon won't accept them into their colonies. Those that have been treated as pets most likely will be unable to gather food or hunt, having been dependent on humans for the majority of their lives. 3. Black deduces that the Galvantua that he captured off panel was released after hearing a similar speech and decides to keep it. The released Pokemon will approach humans in the wild looking for that companionship, with quite possibly disastrous results to either them or the humans. 4.
But with as stupid as their plan is, we can at least take refuge in knowing that it isn't as stupid as Team Aqua's or Team Magma's.
N appears behind Black and takes him back in time to World War II.
Well, I had to get a Black's Adventures reference in here somehow.
They start to fight. Black, however, brings out the Pokédex and N doesn't like this. The Shadow Triad also appears on the last page. Their design has been altered a bit from the games, where they had what I think was a headband and a mask that covered the lower half of their face. Here they just have the mask over the eyes. In their next appearance, sometime later, their masks change to the face patterns of 3 certain monkey Pokemon, because Kusaka enjoys being a giant troll. Speaking of the 3 monkeys, that's a great segue to the next cover. The 3 gym leaders that use them are looming over Black, Sharon, and Bianca, and their starter Pokemon. Chili just sort of cracks me up on this cover. He looks so evil. Silen's face isn't much better. We open up to a flashback of the opening sequence of the game, of N being crowned the king of Team Plasma. The battle resumes and N just talks down at Black. N's eyes in particular are creepy, never actually changing and always staying open, even when he is physically attacked. There's a brief moment where Black tells him to shut up and pretty much tells N that he is an idiot since his Pokemon are standing with him and want to be with him. After hearing Tepig's voice, N walks away confused. Black also saw a bit of N's dream when he fell close to Munna, and we get another drawing of something from the opening. So we finally have that first gym battle. Sharon and Bianca catch up with Black in this attraction gym. The gym battle soon begins, with Sharon and Bianca joining in too, and it becomes a triple battle against all 3 gym leaders. They manage to win. This battle serves more as character development for Bianca. She knows absolutely nothing when it comes to Pokemon battles, even getting the basic elemental triangle wrong. I think that Black's constant talking about Pokemon and all the facts that he researched for the past 9 years would have been ingrained in his friends' heads, but I'm getting the feeling that Bianca's in all there, going by the little incident in Volume 1. Volume 4 opens with Munna going to the Dream Yard. There, Black tries to rescue it from Team Plasma. We learn that without it, Black is pretty much screwed. This is also the introduction to Fennel. There is also a round of White trying to teach Black how to sell and represent her talent agency in public. The example that White does is with a man with an accordion. She manages to sell to him by stating that if he had a Pokemon beside him, it would make his act more popular.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Who the hell thinks that by adding in animals your video will become more popular?
The asshole assistant director comes back and is tasked with looking over the accordion as the man gets ready for some recording. The accordion gets stolen when the assistant director gets up to have a drink, and then he decides to blame Black for his own incompetence.
How has he not been fired yet?
And once again, Black has to clear his name. The final round in this volume is part of a gym battle with Lenora. There is also a subplot, and it's being mentioned because I know it becomes important. White attends a video meeting conference for Nimbasa City, headed by Dr. Wright from Sim City, where they are asking for ideas for tourist attractions, but they don't want to spend a lot of money. White suggests a Pokemon musical.
We can only hope that will be better than the previous Pokemon musical.
It will all be mine. Power so divine. I'll tell the sun to shine.
And I'm actually really impressed. She's a good salesperson. White was capable of finding their needs and appealing to them, stating that they already had the theater stage so they didn't have to build another. The only problem she had was a bit of stuttering and not having confidence in herself, and immediately trying to retract what she said. I walked into these 4 mini-volumes extremely cynical and jaded, going by the train wrecks that were the best of Pokemon Adventures Red and Yellow. I wanted to rip these 4 volumes to shreds. But that didn't really happen. The biggest difference between these 4 volumes and those 2 are that, as far as we know, these are complete. There is no jumping around, and I don't see these going into my fire pit anytime soon. There was only one spot in all 4 volumes that made me think that it was rushed out the door during the translation process. So far, there has been nothing to relate back to the other story arcs, but this is Hidenori Kusaka writing, so it's simply a matter of time. The pacing compared to the previous story arcs seems much slower. In at least 4 different story arcs, by the 2nd volume, the starter Pokemon had evolved. However, at this rate, Tepig doesn't evolve until the 6th mini-volume. If the conversion of 2 mini-volumes equals 1 volume is correct, then it won't evolve until the latter half of the 3rd volume. Part of me, though, is still asking, why? I ultimately see the business reasoning for them. Pokemon Black and White was new when these came out, and it was to ride off the hype, and perhaps get some people out there who weren't previously interested in Pokemon manga, but interested in the games or some other medium such as the anime to buy it. But I'm seeing these releases ultimately being a double-edged sword. When they are put into full volumes, unless there are a ton of changes, or rounds that are written and inserted, there won't be any reason to upgrade. Black has become one of my favorite Pokédex holders, and I can't wait to see what the future has in store for him once the character development hits. He has this aura of childhood innocence and optimism that anything is possible, and it's a giant change of pace from the previous male Pokédex holders that have tragedy as a backstory. Not to mention, it's nice seeing the male character challenging gyms once again. This hasn't happened since way back in the first 3 volumes. White I also like. At the current moment, she is in the sidekick role. She is more focused on her business, and there really isn't much to say about her right now. Her character arc has only just gotten started. And on the other hand, I liked in game. Here he is a giant douche. Maybe he will improve in the future. As for a closing thought, well, I'm interested in seeing what the Chuyang-Yi translation will do. Will they use Viz's translation again, or will they just use their own translation?
Mr. Gaddis, my herdier and I have some questions about Pokemon Liberation. What if in Unova there's some high No, get back here, herdier. No, you're not being liberated. No, I'm not liberating you. Get back here, herdier. Mr. Gaddis, my herdier and I have some questions about Pokemon Liberation. Yes, you do. Okay, look. The camera can't see you there. No, get back here. Yep, I got this herdier from the... Ozzy. Ozzy. Who's the good herdier? Who's the good herdier? Yeah. You know, this could make a great web series. A guy and a dog on a couch. I have no idea what they'd do, but... There is no way someone can be that stupid. Herdier, Giga Impact! Listen to me. Come on, the Pokédex says you can use this move. Do I have to get trainer badges so you obey me?